Okay, so it's Monday. We're in week 7, October 7th. This is day 12, if I have that right. IT Essentials. Focus on learning. A couple more things on that. We'll be wrapping that up by midterm. First thing we talked about was change, looking at things from another angle, being open to change, being persistent, the fact that growth mindset, grit, persistence in the long term. Where does the motivation come from? Rather than a carrot or a stick, some type of internal motivation. We talked about autonomy in our work, mastery, and having some purpose. And then the students were to listen to a teacher's perspective, approximately 11 minutes. And it's in the... Alright, yeah, so it's 11 minutes and it's in the NIAC Canvas. Okay, so I made up this new little thing, terms and concerns. We're going to run through some concerns people have and cover some more terms. Materials list, students commented on that. Talk about the tour, network details, Chapter 5 exam, and applying networks. It's really important that you look at the exam after you take it and reflect on the ones you got right and the ones you got wrong and try and understand why they're wrong, and then need to ask if you need some help. Terms and concerns, okay, what people are talking about. We clarified a broadcast, go to everywhere, unicast, like the internet to the website and back. And we talked a little bit about multicast, this ability of routers to only forward information in the direction it needs to go. And we can talk a little more about that later on. Subnets, networks, network addresses and cutting them into subnets and making more networks. Access control lists inside a firewall. One of the reasons we would want more networks is we can better control the flow of traffic using access control lists. We can also better control broadcast. That'll make more sense later on. Talked about logical and the ability of a router to take an IP address, take the prefix bits or the mask, and it ANDs them with these bits. And when it ANDs, if it's a 1, it's a 1. If it's a 1 and a 1, it's a 1. If it's a 1 and a 0, it's a 0. If it's a 0 and 0, it's a 0. So when you AND this with these two zeros, you're going to get zeros here. So what's going to happen, these 16 bits when they AND, we're going to get the network part of the address. Why haven't we switched to IP6 sooner? There is so many legacy pieces of equipment that still use, for example, IP4 addressing, that it'll take a little while for the transition. Companies need to get their return on investment. We talked about Wi-Fi. Some people say they use Wi-Fi to connect to the internet. That's not really true. We use the Wi-Fi to connect to a local area network, and somewhere in there that's connected to some ISP, which gets us out to the internet. Y2 connections could be a situation. I gave one example in the classroom where if the local network's down, you could use your Wi-Fi to connect to another part of the network on campus. Old versions of software. Yeah, when you run into old version of software and say it looks a little different, well, Welcome to the world of IT. You got to figure it out. Figure it out. You got to be have the ability to take an old version of something like software and figure out how that matches up with a new version and vice versa. Maintenance items. Some cool things. Some people talk about a USB. People carry a USB around that has lots of troubleshooting software. Been nice, not everybody lists the prices. It would have been nice to have the prices in a chart so we could see the totals. Talk a little bit about bloatware. You buy a new device, new phone, new computer. It has a lot of software on it already. And we tried to clarify a little bit of memory in the hard drive. You know, if the bloatware doesn't completely fill your hard drive and you have enough memory, it's really not going to slow down your computer. It's when your hard drive starts to get full that you'll want to defrag it, take fragmented sections of software and get them back continuous. Concerns about Windows 10 security. I don't know a whole lot about that, but they do believe Windows is collecting more data now than ever with Windows 10. Okay, RAID devices. RAID is for redundancy within a network. It is not backup, because a RAID device is in a facility. If that facility burns down, you don't have a backup. So RAID is not backup. Backup is where you make a copy of your material and store it, typically off-site, in the cloud or in some other location. So when they talked about we talked about like hard drive. Some hard drives have platter. And an issue is if those files get scattered around on the hard drive, then the read-write heads have to move around to get the data. They used to, I don't know how much this might be done anymore, we used to store data in cylinders. Like say at the grocery store, all the most common information to be stored in this cylinder on those platters. That way the read-write heads coming in and out, let's say there's a read-write head, here's another one, so for all those platters. If all the bread and butter and milk and so forth from the grocery store were all in the cylinders, then they don't have to move much, which saves time in reading the data. FYI. Okay, devices. We should know what switches are, a little bit about routers, and access points. Routers connect networks. We looked at a little example here. We got a router, we've got a switch, we got an access point. And if it's IP6, we'd have a local link address. We looked at example. This ends up being right here, the default gateway for these PCs. Alright. Now, we looked at communicating through the internet. I think we did the example. If I'm sitting here on the computer and I send this email, let's say to my wife at Yahoo, even though we're in the same room, the mail would go all the way to Yahoo. So we use the protocol, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, port 25. That'll send the mail. It ends up in Yahoo, and then actually we're both sitting here at home, so I go to Google, it sends it to Yahoo. Then when she wants to read it, it uses either IMAP or POP, and those are ports 110 or 143, and then the mail comes off the mail server there, it comes back here to per computer. Over here we have an example. We talked already about broadcasts and ARP. Match up an IP with a MAC address. Here we have another scenario, like we have a cable modem in a house. Let me use a different color here. So we have cable modem here in the house connected to, let's say, Mediacom. And we have this, actually, it's like all one device, right? The little router, or it could be a small business. We got a router, we got a switch, a PC connected to the switch. What does it need? Well, it will have a MAC address to communicate locally to get the information to the router. But in order to have access to the internet, gotta have an IP, default gateway, mask, DNS. Domain name services. If we want to use a URL, that has to be converted to the correct IP address in order to be able to send through the internet. Almost done. We reviewed these, typically for Internet of Things or smart homes. Short range communications. We talked about the OSI model, the different layers. I'm not going to run through those. We did, again, 3 major addressing now. We have the MAC addresses, 48 bits, IP version 4, 32 bits, and then IP6, 128 bits. And we talked about when you look at an IP6 address and you look at one of the hexes, you can always convert hex using, because it's 4 bits, using this method right here. So this, for example, would be in decimal and 8. And we talked about IP6, the addressing and how it works. And that's it.